What up, fam? It's your boy Big Walt. Got Soweto up in here, and we're giving you another episode of Block Boys. And today we're going to be talking about something that's been in the news recently. And, you know, it's much broader than just what's in the news. But Hov is in the news because he is launching this Bitcoin Academy with his boy Jack Dorsey from over at Twitter Square. And you know, it's an interesting thing. Some people love it. Some people hate it. You know, you can't please everybody. So we figured we just chop it up. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it was a Rolling Stone article that you first read, wasn't it, Soweto?
Yeah. It was the Rolling Stone article.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and dig into that a little bit? Let's just, figure this thing out.
Okay. So Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey launched Bitcoin Academy program for Marcy projects. Now, if you didn't know, Marcy is a place where young Hov grew up. That's where he was slinging drugs and learned his rhyming skills and all that shit. So he started in Marcy projects. And now he's doing a give back. And what this give back is...
Hold up for a second. I wouldn't be a Hov fan if I didn't say this. Cough up a lung where I'm from, Marcy, son. Right. Ain't nothing nice. I had to say it. Nah, good. Right. I'm sorry I interrupted, man. Go ahead.
Right. So he decided to do it. His nonprofit decided to do a Bitcoin Academy, and with this Bitcoin Academy, he joined with Jack Dorsey. So in the Rolling Stone article, they basically say Jay-Z and former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey are teaming up to launch a financial literacy program titled Bitcoin Academy. The residents of Marcy projects in Brooklyn, New York, where the rapper grew up. Okay. The program was announced Thursday and will offer classes online and in person to Marcy residents, with dinner being served at each class. Residents who participate will receive a MiFi device, smartphone, and data plans that allow them to keep their device. Meanwhile, children living in the projects will be able to join Crypto Kids for 2 Saturdays. Dorsey also founded the financial services company Block, Inc., formerly known as Square. Sean Carter Foundation has always been about providing educational access for opening doors of opportunities to underserved communities. No one should be left behind, Gloria Carter, Jay-Z's mother, said in a statement. We truly appreciate the partnership with Block and Jack Dorsey to bring financial, specifically Bitcoin education to Marcy residents, where I spent many years raising my family. Bitcoin Academy starting in Marcy, a place that taught me so much. Is hopefully the first of many. Jay-Z wrote on Twitter. The simple goal is to provide people with the tools to build independence for themselves and community around them. Bitcoin is becoming a critical tool for many Africa and Central and South America, Dorsey wrote on Twitter. We believe the same potential exists within the communities in the U.S. Our goal is to provide that making powerful tools more available to people enables them to build greater independence. Education is where we start. This isn't just about Bitcoin, it's about long-term thinking, local economies, and self-confidence. Classes will be offered June 22nd to September 7th, and will include what is money, what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain, how to keep yourself safe from scammers. Everyone should be empowered to make informed financial decisions in order to take care of themselves and their family, Carter added. Bitcoin Academy is a collaboration with Crypto Blockchain Plug and Black Bitcoin Billionaire, and is funded in part by personal grants from Carter and Dorsey, along with the support of Sean Carter's foundation and Block. The program hopes to expand to other neighborhoods in the near future. Now, such a great article. And when I read it, I was like, wow, things are looking up. I bet people are going to stop saying Jay-Z's a part of the Illuminati and is out for himself. Finally, like, give back to the people, you know, that made him.
Yeah.
But how wrong I was. How wrong I was.
Well, what's wild, though, in this article, there's a direct comparison. You can see it between what's going on in Africa and Central and South America. You know, Jack Dorsey is basically making a statement, whether he's, you know, acknowledging it or not, that, you know, there are places that, you know, have a hard way to go in these emerging markets that are basically like leveraging Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to their benefit, and saying that the same thing could be done right here in the US for communities and neighborhoods that got a bad way to go. So I could totally dig it, man. I think, you know, TechCrunch also, you know, had an article about this, which, you know, is mostly, you know, the same information, but coming, you know, from a different perspective. And you can see, again, the title in this article, Jay-Z and Dorsey launched this Bitcoin Academy in a public housing complex, but the subtitle says, is billionaire funded crypto education really what low-income people need? You know, is it what low-income people need? Like, I guess I would ask why don't they need it? But from the perspective of Maslow's hierarchy, you know, I guess, you know, financial literacy probably isn't, you know, your primary, it's not your primary motivator every day when you're trying to figure out how you're going to eat, or, you know, how you're going to prevent from getting shot, you know, or something like that. But, you know, at the same time, you know, you got to start somewhere.
Right.
So, you know, I don't know. But, you know, basically pretty much, you know, this article is talking to, you know, basically, you know, all the same information. It's giving you a little bit more details about who's involved and how they're going about doing it. And then there's some, you know, some talk about, you know, the volatility of cryptocurrency, et cetera, and what impact that might have on people who live in low-income housing projects. But again, you know, good information. And again, like we said, it's in the headlines. And so I think one article, well, here's a piece of it that I think is relevant and somewhat different from the Rolling Stones article. They say some vulnerable populations like immigrants and the unbanked can be curious about crypto as an alternative to traditional banks, which have high international transaction fees and often require legal documents to access. And what they're talking about is remittances. So a lot of immigrants, they come to the United States to work and they send money back home. But institutions like Western Union and MoneyGram and some of these others, they hit them with just extra large fees and taxes, which means they can send less of their money back to their people. But if you use crypto, the fees are, you know, very, very limited. The money gets there instantaneously. The people don't have to wait to get the money, and you don't have to necessarily fill out a whole bunch of documentation to do it. So, you know, from that perspective, you know, it's kind of smart. The other thing, and if you check back in the Block Boys catalog, you see that we've done at least 2 videos on El Salvador, and you know what they've done by making Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador. But it says in El Salvador, about 70% of the population is unbanked. Yet after the country became the first to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender last year, residents have witnessed the economic progress they'd hoped for. The International Monetary Fund has even encouraged the country to remove Bitcoin as legal tender, citing the risk of inflation and lack of consumer protection. The Central American country is expected to pay back an $800 million sovereign bond in January of 2023, but some analysts think the country might default on its loan. I've done a little bit of research on this, and if they do default, I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that they started using Bitcoin as legal tender. I think it has to do with perhaps the structure of the loan and the natural resources that they do or don't possess. That's a different story. But anyway, you know, like it is what it is. The article goes into some sort of the darker aspects of cryptocurrency. There's mad scammers out there, and a lot of people are getting beat out their money. There's a lot of predatory practices, and then there's hackers that even if you're not dealing with scammers and getting beat out of your money, you can deal with platforms that aren't exactly secure, and next thing you know, your wallets get drained or whatever. So that's kind of that. We wanted to give you a flavor of sort of the headlines, but we also want to look sort of like at how this is working out, because we know Jay-Z's not going into Marcy projects and delivering financial literacy classes in crypto, and Jack Dorsey's not doing that either. As cool as he is, I don't know that he's cool enough to roll up in Marcy without having a bad day. So anyway, in that Rolling Stone article, you mentioned, I think you mentioned like 4 different groups that were involved in putting this together. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I know Black Bitcoin billionaires are a part of it, and then the crypto blockchain plug. So I know more about the Black Bitcoin billionaires, and
I don't know much about them.
Yeah, so they have, and it's a really good program. They have a clubhouse, and they talk about Bitcoin, and from what I know about them, their philosophy is like put some money aside into Bitcoin and kind of dollar cost average it. So, and I know we haven't gotten to the risk, to the naysayers and everything, but their philosophy seems to be dollar cost average, put a little money aside every month or whatever into Bitcoin for the future. And that's their big thing. And they also seem to be from the interview I saw on Clubhouse on Breakfast Club. They sound like Lamar sounds like a Bitcoin maxi almost, where he's interested in making sure people buy Bitcoin and don't get confused with these other altcoins. So I think he was being interviewed in I don't know exactly where, but I'd
actually have to agree with him on that. Although I would include Ethereum in there as well, but I agree with him.
Yeah. So and I know a lot of altcoins probably won't make it, or unless they have a real utility behind them. But I think he was talking about, scratch that. I don't know if I heard it on the interview or if it was on a Clubhouse, but they were basically saying they didn't want to direct people into any type of what do you call it? Marketplace where there's a bunch of altcoins, because you can confuse people and people can end up buying the wrong things and things like that. So they seem to be more Bitcoin maxis, which I understand. So I feel like they're a really good program, and they're talking about, making people billionaires by buying small, Satoshis of Bitcoin. Isn't that how you say it? Satoshi.
Yeah.
And eventually becoming billionaires off that. So
yeah, I think that's a little bit gimmicky. I mean, nobody's going to become a billionaire.
Yeah, I don't think.
So, but I get the aspirational aspect of it.
Yeah, and from what I'm way new to Bitcoin and everything, but the way I see Bitcoin is, the way Bitcoin goes, so does most of all the other cryptos. So if you're going to invest in crypto, why not Bitcoin? Bitcoin is going to be probably the most solid crypto you can buy. So I like Black Bitcoin billionaires. They seem really, really cool. And then the other one, crypto block, was it crypto?
The crypto blockchain plug. I think they're out of LA. I know they're on the West Coast.
Yeah. I know very little about them. You said you know a little more about them, but yeah. But
I just know that
on their website, they seem pretty good also.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's interesting about Crypto Blockchain Plug, I know they operate out of the West Coast. I also know that they have brick and mortar presence. So they're not just like a website with people like there. They actually have brick and mortar presence. And I don't know if it's just one location or they have multiple locations. But I also know that they had some pre-existing educational programs teaching people how to secure the cryptocurrencies that they did own through hardware cold wallets and such. So they've been around for a while, and it makes sense that they would that they would have gotten chosen to partner with Jay-Z and Dorsey's program. You can see some of the they're doing some marketing over here, but you can see why like I said, you can see why they would have gotten chosen for this. I mean, obviously, like if you're in cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin is the first thing that comes to mind. And I'm not sure if these guys are only about Bitcoin or not. You mentioned the word Bitcoin Maxi. For people watching, Bitcoin Maxi is short for Bitcoin maximalist. And a maximalist is someone who's like all in on that particular thing. And so Bitcoin Maxis tend to think that the only cryptocurrency that matters is Bitcoin. I'm not one of those people. I have like all due respect for Bitcoin. And I think, Bitcoin is what it is. I think Bitcoin, I don't think it's going to be a currency. I think it'll be a store of value. I am not convinced that Bitcoin is always going to be the most valuable cryptocurrency. I think if Ethereum as a platform can resolve its performance and throughput challenges, I think Ethereum could easily overtake Bitcoin. And the reason why is, according to the white paper, if you are a Bitcoin maximalist, you should be like a Supreme Court constitutionalist, right? Like if it's not in the white paper, it's not meant to be. And Bitcoin, as Satoshi puts it, is peer-to-peer money. That's the only intention for Bitcoin. There are some people that are trying to turn Bitcoin into Ethereum. And Ethereum is the world computer. It's meant for programs to run on top of it. Bitcoin is not meant for computers or for programs to run on top of it. And I think if you do put a bunch of programs on top of Bitcoin, you're going to flood the network and make it slow and not be good at what it was meant to do in the first place. Whereas Ethereum is meant to be basically the AWS, the Amazon Web Services of blockchain platform. And so, we've already got almost the entire DeFi industry on top of Ethereum. We've got the bulk of the NFT industry on top of Ethereum. And there are going to be more industries built on top of Ethereum. And the more value those industries bring to the platform, the more the underlying currency that makes it all work, Ether, is going to be worth. So I think I'm getting ahead of myself because when I give my take at the end, I'm going to talk more on that. But anyway, that's basically where I see that. So go ahead.
And I just want to, and that we went through these two things. I would like to, and I haven't got to my take yet, but it is good to know that Jay-Z, I'm sure it was probably more of a Jay-Z thing, got Black Bitcoin billionaire and the crypto got the name Crypto Blocks. What is it? Crypto blockchain.
Crypto plug, yeah, plug.
Because aren't both of those black, mainly black?
They're black-owned businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to say, and I haven't got my take yet, but just shout out just to that aspect of it, because he could have easily just chosen any, partner to do this with.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
The black company.
They're definitely on some FUBU shit, some forest bias shit. Like, so I totally respect that. And like I said, they both have been doing it for a while. They've got their perspectives. I don't agree with all of them, but they know what they're doing as it relates to giving these training classes. They've been doing it, so it makes sense that they were chosen. So between the Sean Carter Foundation, which Jay-Z's foundation that his mother runs. Between the Sean Carter Foundation, who's definitely plugged in to Marcy, you know what I'm saying, and Block, which Dorsey's definitely plugged into Bitcoin. He is a Bitcoin maximalist. You can see him on Twitter beefing with people who are proponents of other blockchains often, caping for Bitcoin. So that kind of makes sense. So it looks like the funding is coming from Jay-Z, from the Sean Carter Foundation, and from Block. And it looks like the classes are going to be delivered jointly by the Crypto Blockchain Club and the Black Blockchain Billionaires, or Bitcoin Billionaires, rather. Mm-hmm. So that's that. What do we know about exactly what's going to be taught? Do they have like a syllabus or curriculum?
They just said it was not a syllabus, but they did have, I think, on all hip hop, and I think it was in the Rolling Stone article also. But the sample classes were going to be: what is money, what is bartering, what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin mining, how to keep yourself safe from scammers. And then the kids' 2-day summer classes.
That's what's up. And also, look, if for nothing else, you get your own Wi-Fi hotspot with the 1-year plan. People who need a smartphone and don't have one can get a smartphone, and you can keep the devices after the program ends, and they're going to serve meals. I mean, if you think about the value of this, and I just think about back in the day, I had a friend, shout out to my friend Gloria, you know who you are. She used to work at BET, but she was real plugged in to the DC political scene. And every Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving, she would hit me up, and I would make a donation, on my company's behalf. I remember, running to it was Giant Foods back then, and just getting a whole bunch of $100 gift cards or whatever from Giant, and they basically would give them to families in DC, and they had these food pantries. These kids, they wouldn't eat 3 meals a day, and some of these kids, the only good solid meal they got was when they was at school, and in the summertime they would go to these food pantries. You know what I'm saying? And so the fact that they got meals involved with these things, and with the kids camp, I mean, outside from the technology aspect of it, they're feeding people. You know what I'm saying? That's always a good thing. And they're giving people technology who don't have technology, which is also a good thing, because if you don't have the technology, if you don't have a smartphone, you're locked out. If you don't have a data plan, you're locked out. From your perspective, what do you think? What do you think of some of the other benefits? We're not getting into the naysayers and that sort of thing, but do you think this is beneficial?
Easily is beneficial. Even we haven't got to the naysayers. I almost look at it because we were talking about the Maslow's theory of not safe. What is it? Maslow theory, hierarchy.
Hierarchy of needs. Yeah.
Yeah, hierarchy of needs. And when you really think about it, and I'm gonna go. I hate bringing up slavery, because when people bring up slavery, they're like, "All right, don't compare."
Hey, we just had Juneteenth, man.
Right, that's true.
Can't nobody blame. Yeah.
I think that's what to be the title of the show. All right, Soweto brings up slavery. So, if you think about slavery and you go to a slave and say, "I'm going to teach you to read." Now, obviously, there's other things that you need other than reading, but knowledge,
I like where you're going with this, by the way.
Yeah. Like the fact that they'll learn about, money and even if, so let me take it back to where I understood how I got into like crypto and blockchain. I think I learned about it like in 2018-ish about, it was mainly about blockchain, and it didn't click, but who I was listening, and I can't remember where I pulled it from, who I was listening to, but they were saying like blockchain is the future, and they was kind of explaining how it worked. And it made sense on a level, but like I couldn't see like how it would work in the real world. And then like a few years later, as I was getting more information about it clicked, and it was like, oh, okay, blockchain, you can do a lot with a blockchain because, you can see who owns the rights to things. And then you can kind of take anything from the real world and imagine how it would fit on a blockchain and see how much easier and efficient it will be. So, and going back to the slavery thing, the way I look at these classes or just the blockchain, just the technology in general, is if you is kind of the same way I look at jazz. Like when you had these instruments for years, I guess, in obviously centuries or whatever in Europe.
Right.
Like
I was about to say that.
These different instruments, but then once you put it in the hands of these African artists, it became jazz music. Like we invented a whole new thing. So the way I look at it is, it's not going to make everybody that takes this class isn't going to become like wealthy, I guess, or maybe even use it to its fullest ability. But there's going to be a certain amount of people that learn about this and then figure out a way to like make a future for themselves. Because I believe once you learn about this, the money thing is good, but the technology is probably even more important. So learning about the technology and how you can use it in your daily life is going to reap way more benefits. And I always feel like learning things can never be a bad thing. Like I
agree 1,000%.
Yeah. I've yet to meet someone that said, man, I really hate learning a whole bunch, because when you learn, like nobody says I learned too much and now, I don't know. Maybe
right.
They do,
well, and the other thing too, though, is like it also can shift somebody's worldview. And what I mean by that is somebody's world might be this big, right? Because of certain information that they don't know. But if you teach them, something new, and in this case, this is financial literacy and cryptocurrency, their worldview opens up a little bit more. Now, everybody's brain is creative on some degree or another. And like you mentioned with jazz, like that could be the spark that's necessary for them to think up a whole different thing. Or it could plant the seed for some kid to go read the Satoshi white paper and then decide that he wants to be or she wants to be a blockchain developer. You know what I mean? And start building things on top of the blockchain. And that could, because of where they're from, they might have the desire to help everybody else where they're from. And that could be something that has a positive impact on the whole community. And so like, there's limitless ways where I think this is beneficial. So, I mean, I think, the fact that there's benefit, that's a no-brainer. I think, there may be, some drawbacks or there may be, there may be something that somebody can say, about how it's being delivered. But ultimately, I think there's a definite value there. And I think I'm glad that the media is recognizing, this effort. I think what we wanted to get into next was a little bit about Hov and Jack Dorsey's relationship. Like how did these two come to be? Like how did these two hook up and decide that this was even the thing to do? And before I run down, my perspective on it, I should ask you, have you been following their history? Do you know how they linked up and why they're doing this?
No, not the history. I only read a little bit about them, like going in together. Was it 500 Bitcoin or something like that? They put their money in
for India and Africa.
Yeah, for India and Africa, which I thought was really cool. And then there was an article I read about Africa, like how Africa has the highest remittance, like to send money to Africa, especially to sub-Saharan Africa, is the most expensive to send money.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that, man. It's actually, it's kind of messed up, but I guess it could be explained through risk models and things like that. All the Nigerian princes and things hanging around.
But that was the only thing I knew about.
Shout out to my man Uche in Nigeria. That was just jokes, my man.
And can I say something about Nigerians? Nigerians and don't take this as an insult. Nigerians are everywhere. Like if you know.
Oh, bruh. Everywhere I've gone, I've been in Southeast Asia and I've seen Nigerians deep. All over Europe, Nigerians are deep. The two. Too. Yeah, and it's not just Nigerians. I've noticed it's Irish people and Nigerians are everywhere.
Oh, and Irish. Okay.
Like, yeah. I've gone all over the place. There's always an Irish bar. I've never been anywhere that didn't have an Irish bar. But yeah, Nigerians and the Irish are everywhere, which is I actually admire that. I think it's cool. But yeah, so like, I don't know if it was like 2 years ago. It was definitely before the pandemic. But Jay-Z started doing deals, right? He started, he did a deal where he, sold, I think, nearly half of his champagne brand to build a partnership with Louis Vuitton, Moet, and Hennessy, so LVMH. So he partnered himself up, linked up with them so they can give him a better, global distribution for that brand. And he also sold a 50% stake in Tidal to Square, which Jack Dorsey owns, right? So him and Jack became partners. And as part of that deal, he got a seat on the board of directors of Square, now blocked, right? And so now Hov, I don't know that people are following this guy and what he's doing, but in that one move, he turned himself from just like this sort of like hip hop mogul to a tech mogul. He's a tech mogul through Tidal anyway, but once you got yourself aligned with Square, now you sit on the board of directors of Block. You are a tech mogul at this point. You know what I mean? So, and that's where Hov and Dorsey's relationship, I think, really sparked. And they sort of like did a couple little small things together, and you could see that their relationship was getting like closer and closer and stronger over time. And you mentioned the sort of thing they did where they gifted some money to Africa and India to get going with Bitcoin. And now they're doing this thing, for the Marcy projects. So, these two, they've got a, some folks, I got certain friends who would say they're developing a bromance type of thing. You know what I mean? But Dorsey has an interesting perspective, and his worldview is very interesting. And I think that there's some natural alignments between the way Jack Dorsey sees the world, and the way Jay-Z sees the world, and the type of people that they both want to benefit. You know what I mean? So I could see how they got together. So it makes sense to me. When I saw the headline, I really wasn't surprised. I was surprised that I didn't know it was happening, but I wasn't surprised that these two would be doing this. You know what I'm saying?
And I think I believe the partnership, it makes sense on a lot of levels. When we look at, now I don't know if, and maybe these numbers are wrong, but I think there was an article, I have to figure out where it's from, but they were saying there's a lot of African Americans just in the cryptocurrency space in general, like percentage wise, there's a lot of them in the space. But I think what's happening now is like you're seeing like a lot of different celebrities, well, musicians really, rappers, a lot of rappers in this space. And I think that's gonna perpetuate more people at least looking into it, even if they don't like jump in fully. Like this is kind of putting a face on cryptocurrencies to where it's becoming, I guess, more safe for people to kind of look into, at least see what it's all about. So I think it's a positive in that sense. And Jay-Z being like a world figure helps Jack Dorsey also. Like doing this helps Jack Dorsey also in the sense of getting the message out to more people. Because Jack Dorsey couldn't go to Marcy Projects and do this thing and have level.
And not only could he not go without Jay-Z in his ear, he might not even have thought to have gone to Marcy. You understand? So like it's there's a symbiosis there, which I think we gotta respect. And getting back to sort of the value, the fact that they've got classes on how to not get scammed is very important. There's a lot of bullshit scammers out there, and for people who are really sort of heavy into crypto, and want it to grow and want cryptocurrencies to be successful, and want blockchain to be successful, and are really into the Web 3.0 and want that to be successful. You don't like scammers. Scammers are basically fucking it up for everybody. You know what I mean? Not only is that going to bring in really restrictive regulation that could be, an obstruction to innovation. It just is going to make it so that really the only people that could play in that space are powerful incumbents that already have money, as opposed to the young and small upstarts, that don't have a lot of money to start. So, we really don't like scam. We don't like scam and bammers in this space.
But unfortunately, you're just going to have that just because the space is going to be flooded with money all the time. So you're going to have that. It's just being aware and being from, and I didn't live in Marcy Projects, but I'm sure being from the projects, you kind of on your toes anyway in general. Like that's a part of daily life of worrying about, just eating and everything, but being scammed on the streets also. So it's nothing new in general, but teaching people how to be safe is important. So I'm glad.
Yeah, so that. I agree with you. It's a lot of people from the streets are street savvy. That's how you survive. But if you remember, I'm gonna give us the example of The Wire. Stringer Bell was very savvy, but them suits in the real estate game, they beat him out of a lot of money. It's because that was a whole different hustle, and he didn't know all the ins and outs. So, so he got beat. So it's still possible to get beat when you play in the game, that you're not used to, that you haven't been taught and trained. You know what I'm saying?
As the Negro philosopher Chuck D once said, "Are we the same? No, we're not the same because we don't know the game. If you know the game, you can play it better." So
that's what's up, and we need to know that game.
Yeah.
So let's we've been hinting about this, that there are some naysayers. You can't please everybody. You know what I'm saying? You could get somebody $100 bill, and that there will be somebody to complain about it. You know what I'm saying? So let's dive into that real quick. Because there's some of these quotes are there's some doozies in here, man. There's some doozies. What is this? This Guardian headline, just in the headline off the rip, it says Jay-Z's Bitcoin school met with skepticism in his former housing project. Quote, "I don't have money to be losing," end quote. The subtitle says the hip hop mogul loves to rap about his roots in Brooklyn's Marcy housing projects, but classes in cryptocurrency show the billionaire is out of touch, residents say. There's some quotes, from this article that I wanted to read.
That's quite a bit. And let's just say, shout out to Guardian for pulling Jay-Z's 19. What picture is that from? Jay-Z's got locks now. They got Jay-Z looking skinny. It's that 90s, early 20s.
That's old, and I don't know if they're trying to play him that's the last time he actually stepped foot in Marcy or something.
Right.
But yeah, that's rather old right there.
And a lot of these quotes, I think they're in a lot of different articles also.
Yeah, there's a few of them, but some of them I think because we read a few of these different articles, and a lot of them are basically quoting from this Guardian. They're basically just reprints of what was in the Guardian. Mm-hmm. But Myra Raspberry says quote, it's kind of late to be doing that when people are trying to hold on to their dollars and everything is so expensive. That's what she's told the Associated Press. So I guess the AP was out there, Marcy, interviewing people. She went on to say people don't want to be investing money knowing they might have a chance of losing it. Nyashia Figueroa, she said, what did she say? Oh, she said Marcy has other needs. She says, we have a basketball court with no hoops. Our park is broken up here. He should be doing more for this community, not a Bitcoin academy. And then I think she also said the only thing I could say he really did for us was the Christmas stuff. Every Christmas he would come around and he would give us free toys, to the kids, like pocketbooks, perfumes, and little MP3 players. That was good. The Bitcoin ain't. That's definitely, that's some serious shade. Then this one cat, Coach Huggins Jr., he tweeted this out. It says, this is how Jay-Z's Bitcoin Academy is being distributed in Marcy P's, just throwing it in the lobby, LOL, financial literacy, quote unquote. And then if you're not watching the screen, if you just hear my voice, there's a photo of a bunch of flyers for this thing just thrown at what looks like a trash chute or something on the floor.
Yeah, it looks like they were just discarded or dropped.
Yes. It's not a good look, man. But look, everybody has a perspective, and certainly, these aren't outsiders. These are people who live in Marcy, and so these people have a perspective. So I'm not, far be it from me to tell these people, what they need or don't need.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
You should leave that to me. Okay, let me explain something.
Wait, so you ready to give your take? You gonna give your take?
Yeah, I'm ready to give my take.
All right, give your take.
Reading. Okay. All right. Yeah, you should have a basketball goal. I believe you shouldn't have just a hoop. Not a hoop. They just have like the pole for the hoop.
Yeah, with no nets and stuff.
No backboard or nothing. It's just, it's nothing. Okay, take that aside. Let's talk about they gave MP3s for Christmas versus Bitcoin. All right. And I know and people don't think like this, but if you look at it financially, purely financially from a financial aspect, if you get a MP3 player or any type of technology, somebody gives you any type of technology, in 4 years and 5 years, it's going to be obsolete. Like whatever if it's $100 MP3 player, $200 MP3 player, in 5 years, it's going to be worth $25 or, $10, something like that. Like it's going to go down in value. If you invest in a stock or I'm going to say Bitcoin also, but like if you invest in an asset, yes, it can go down in value because there's risk tied to everything, but it can also go up in value. So like today is like the 15-year anniversary of the iPhone. If someone said, I can buy you an iPhone back in, 2000, whenever it's 2007.
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
If someone said, I'll buy you an iPhone back then, you probably would have said, cool, because it would have been a new thing, a new technology and everything. It would have been nice. But if they said, okay, I'm not going to buy you the iPhone, but I'm going to buy you, I guess the iPhone cost $500 back then, $500 in Apple stock. Right. And locked it. Which one do you think is more valuable today? Like, people don't think about that, and it's the financial literacy thing. Like, exactly. Financial literacy will help you see things in a totally different way. Like anytime you buy any type of technology, hardware technology, it's going to go down in value in the future. It's always better to buy, stocks and bonds and things rather than buying things that depreciate over time. So I would say to I'm not going to call out the person, but I'm just saying, thinking that MP3 players and things like that is better than learning about the financial game is short-sighted. So I would say this is way more beneficial than the Christmas things to me. Now, on the other end, on the basketball court, yeah, they should get a basketball court. But is that Jay-Z? Should Jay-Z do that, or should the city of New York, or I don't know how, like I don't know like how that works on that end. But
right.
I think the learning financial literacy is way more important than, you know, some of the other things that they spoke about. And I understand that when you're in the middle of something, it's hard for you to see it, but in the long run, like if you think long run, because I think that's what this whole Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain is all about, is thinking like long term, not thinking short term. So I would say, yes, they are incorrect. No, they're not incorrect on how they feel about it, but they're incorrect on how they're kind of processing, you know, what's good for, you know, what's good for everyone. I think knowledge is good for everyone.
I totally feel that. And you kind of tipped back into that Maslow's hierarchy, because people who are still focused on shelter and safety and those types of things, they can't even think about tomorrow, let alone next year or 5 years from now. They're trying to figure out where their next meal is going to come from. You know what I mean? And so I can understand that short-sightedness. It's still short-sightedness, right? Yeah. And you basically would rather have short money over long money, and that's part of what it is. As far as like the basketball hoop thing, you know, maybe Hov could call the mayor and be like, yo, you know, whoever's like managing, you know, this particular housing project, maybe you can like increase the maintenance budget next year and include, you know, some money to improve the parks, so that people can have a safe place to play and have fun, which would then probably make them not want to get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like that's something that could be done. But I have to agree with you. It definitely is valuable. And not only is it valuable, but it is necessary, because, you know, people who don't know better won't do better. And you can plant those seeds and ultimately they will bear fruit. There's a piece out of this Guardian article that I want to read. It says the 12-week Bitcoin Academy course will be taught by Lamar Wilson, who runs the website Black Bitcoin Billionaires, and Naja J. Roberts, founder and CEO of the brick and mortar crypto school in California called Crypto Blockchain Plug. Who said this? Oh, Jay-Z tweeted this. The simple goal is to provide people the tools to build independence for themselves and then the communities around them. Basically, this is the first of many. A spokesperson from the Bitcoin Academy said that the participants will see, well, we already went through that, what they'll receive and what they'll learn. But it says the Academy plans to grant students $20 to $25 in Bitcoin when they set their wallets up. And so, you know, this is all to teach people skills, put some money in their pocket, and hopefully they can do something with it. But my take is basically this, man. Like, one, you can't please everybody. And two, you know, you're always going to be able to find, like, you know, some haters. You know, and three, you know, not everybody knows what's good for them, you know, and sometimes it takes people that don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, to be able to understand, you know, what kind of help people really need. You know, what's that old biblical saying? Like, you know, you could give a man a fish, or you could teach him to fish. Yeah. In this case, you know, Hov and Dorsey are trying to teach like a whole community how to fish. You know, if somebody came around and was like, yo, I got a couple bricks and I can teach you how to push this pack and put some money in your pocket, they probably wouldn't beef. You know, some people would take them up on that offer, some people won't. But I don't think you'd have people like criticizing it like they're criticizing this. Dude is basically saying, I'll even give you a little bit of seed money and teach you, you know, I'll show you how to do this, son.
Right. Just start you off. Like,
right.
Like they're giving them $25, and I know it's a long process depending on the person. I think the main key for this is learning how to save money. So that's the number one thing, like saying, okay, I'm gonna, no matter what happens throughout the week, I'm gonna save, I don't know, $10 a month or $10 a week or whatever you can afford to like put aside, and just always put it in this account and just make it automatic all the time.
Right.
And they'll reap the benefits of it. Like I remember I was talking to a kid, he said he had learned about Bitcoin like when he was in high school. And he said he had like, a lot of I forget how many Bitcoin, but he was like, I wish I had it now because, it's gone up since then. And that was like a 4-year period. And I forgot the guy's name, but he talks about Bitcoin all the time. They always interview him on financial shows. And he was saying there's never been a point in time where if you held Bitcoin for 4 years where you lost money.
Yeah, that's just the long-term play. Same thing with the stock market. There's always going to be short-term volatility, but in the long term, the trajectory is typically always up. I want to tell 2 stories about financial literacy and why it's so important for Black America. One is a personal story, and one is a story that I read. I'll lead with the story that I read. There was this Black teenage boy. I think he was can't remember if he was in DC or New York, but he wanted some Jordans. And his parents were like, hey, we're not going to buy you these Jordans. We could afford them, but that's a lot of money to be spending on some shoes. So what they told him was, if you save up enough money to buy a share of Nike stock, we'll buy you the Jordans. So he basically did that. And so they said that basically was the rule. Every time you wanted to buy a new pair of Nikes, you had to buy some Nike stock first, and then we would buy you the shoes that you want, as opposed to just, spending the money. We want you to buy assets and earn money. So this kid, he started saving his money and he bought his first share of Nike stock, and they bought him the Jordans that he wanted. But over time, he looked and saw that like the value of his Nike stock had increased. So he now was more wealthy than what he was prior to having bought them. And he realized, man, if I had used the money that my parents spent on the Jordans that they bought me to buy more stock, I could have even more money. So it got to the point where this kid didn't even want the sneakers anymore. He saw it, you know what I'm saying? And Jay-Z has some lyrics. They go something like, I could show you better than I could tell you type of deal. But when you start seeing, he says, I ain't sold my dream, I just showed him the cream. When you can actually see your wealth growing based on this new pattern of behavior, it's like it turns into a virtuous cycle. You want to actually spend more money in the saving, more money in the investing. This kid ended up having like a very impressive portfolio by the time he was 18 years old. And it was all because his parents basically forced him to learn financial literacy. Right. And so that's the kind of thing that hopefully Jay-Z and Jack Dorsey's Academy, that it'll have that kind of impact. Even if it's just $10, they're doing dollar cost averaging, and like every third Monday they spend $10 on some Bitcoin. They'll see that over time, they'll start accumulating wealth. And they ultimately will end up having more money than what they put in, because over time, over the long term, the value is going to increase. The next story is a personal story. And this is crazy. Like, I have been, to my own detriment, my lack of financial literacy as a young man cost me $1 million. It actually cost me more than $1 million, potentially more than $1 million, but for definite, $1 million. When I was one of these kids, I had to work my way through college, and like maybe 3/4 of the way through college, I lucked up, and a buddy of mine introduced me to somebody who worked at this place called America Online. And, we talked, and they brought me in, and ultimately I came to work for the company. And I was like employee number like 236 or something. Like, it was a small company when I worked there. It had just got started. And part of my my compensation package was stock options. And walking through the door, they granted you stock options, and they had a vesting schedule, and they vested over a certain period of time. And I didn't do anything, like just walking through the door, you get that. Now every year, part of your bonuses and things like that, they would give you more stock options. They also had this employee stock option purchase plan where you could purchase the stock for a discount of what they were on the market. So typically that's 15%. So if you bought, $100 worth of stock options, per se, you could have bought them for $85 and then turned right around and sold them for $100 and immediately got a 15% gain. Now, if you scale that up, right, you did $10,000, right? So you can see how you could earn money. I'm doing that real quick. I didn't know about any of this. My dad, he's a military guy. My mom was not financially savvy from a financial markets perspective. And I didn't have any mentors that could teach me how the stock market worked. So I was financially illiterate. And I was sitting on a gold mine and had no idea. Here's the kicker. I left that company with vested stock options. And I didn't even exercise my options on my way out the door because that didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't see them as valuable. I didn't see anything about that as something I should do. And by the time I got smart enough, there was a period of my life where I was a day trader. I got smart enough to understand what I walked away from. And I realized that I left $1 million on the table because I had AOL stock options before the company ever had its first stock split. Like I was there from the beginning. And I've got friends now. Some of them might even be watching this video. They're millionaires multiple times based off their AOL stock. And I walked away from that money. And so that's my hee-haw story because I was a straight up jackass. But the reason why is because I was financially illiterate at that time in my life. I didn't know. And so when people say, is this thing valuable and should Jay-Z be teaching these people? Like, I assume that somebody from the Marcy projects is going to find their way into college somewhere. They're going to find their way in a company somewhere. I mean, hell, you could be an administrative assistant at a startup company and get stock options. But if you're not financially literate, you won't even know what those things are. You feel me? So I think what Jay-Z and Jack are doing right now is they're going to save somebody the pain and agony that I have every time I think about that story and all that money that I walked away from. And the fact that, had I understood that, I probably wouldn't even have left the company when I did, because there was like so many more stock that I could have received, through my employment. I basically was at AOL when it was still a startup.
Wow.
Which, sidebar, in my life, and there's probably not too many people who could say this, I've had a beer with Bill Gates before, and I had a beer with Steve Case before.
Wow.
Typically, people who are Steve Case people are not Bill Gates people, and Bill Gates people aren't Steve Case people. Wow. That probably wouldn't happen too often. Anyway, sidebar. But anyway, that's my take, man. Like, financial literacy goes beyond just Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It's really about financial literacy. It's really about behavior. And it's really about opening people's eyes to financial instruments and how those financial instruments can be used to their benefit, as well as, once you get into the crypto aspect of it, what blockchain is, because cryptocurrency is this big, where blockchain is like, there's this whole universe of possibilities with blockchain.
Yeah. The blockchain is where you're really going to see the growth. Like, this is going to be the time. Like, I always compare this to, like, the .com and just technology spaces where you don't understand what's happening at the beginning. Because I remember I remember specifically different technologies where I didn't understand why they were valuable and why money was getting poured into them. Like, I remember when Facebook started and they were like, they haven't made money. And it's like, no, actually, the people that's on the platform are going to make it money because advertisers kind of see it. But they never really printed that in stories or anything. Or like when Netflix was starting to like really come on, like other companies like Warner Brothers, like these other studios didn't even understand what they were doing. And now every studio, like I'm in film, so like every studio's got a streaming service. so they understand the benefits of it. So now we have this technology that's going to be similar to, it's technology, so it's going to infiltrate every aspect of our lives. Like, there's probably not going to be many things that it doesn't really touch. And
as a general purpose technology, that's absolutely correct. Like in the Web 2.0 days, the word was disruption. Like, there were these Web 2.0 companies that were disrupting all of these old school incumbents, right? Like Netflix, it disrupted Blockbuster, right? You had Uber to disrupt the taxi businesses. You had Amazon just, hammering, retail stores. So like that's what that was. The D word for Web 3.0 is disintermediation. And, most people, you hear them say decentralization, and that's important. But disintermediation is the most powerful aspect of what blockchain is bringing to the table. And we're going to have many more podcast episodes to talk about exactly what disintermediation is. Actually, there's already one video. If you go look through our Block Boys catalog, there's a disintermediation video out there. But we're going to talk about that more and more because it's really an important concept. But I think this is a good place to wrap it up. We've been at it for a minute. But, the bottom line is, Hov is doing good things for the community as he normally does. And he's bringing in powerful people like Jack Dorsey to help him in that regard. And from my perspective, I don't see how you could knock that hustle. You see what I did there? Can't knock the hustle. I Before we sign off, Soweto, man, you got any last words for him, man?
No. My last words would be, I understand why people are skeptical of this because it's a new technology. And when I first learned about it, I didn't understand it. But I would just say, keep an open mind and learn for yourself. There's a lot of the book that I learned some stuff about the assets is called Crypto Assets, I think it was called. And there's just a book on, and it's from like 2018, I think. So it doesn't even have all the crypto assets, but like it gives you a good working knowledge of how this whole, I guess, ecosystem works. But yeah, I think this will be great. What Jay-Z's doing for people in Marcy, and then it'll eventually expand to other communities. I would imagine, and I think it's a win for most people. I think we won't really see the benefits for a few years, but it's definitely a win for the community and for everybody that's participating.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one thing I meant to speak on that I forgot about, and I'll be quick about this, is the only thing that I would sort of, improve upon, what these guys are doing is broaden the perspective a little bit. I know Jack is a Bitcoin maxi, and he's probably influencing Jay-Z in that regard. But I do think that including some education about Ethereum, what Ethereum does, what the world computer is, what smart contracts are, what they do, as a teaching tool to introduce people to how they can start being blockchain developers now, so that they won't focus so much on the cryptocurrency, because the naysayers are like, well, we don't have money to lose. Well, you don't have to lose money. Like, if we can introduce you to this thing called blockchain, you can do things that have nothing to do with money with blockchain. And I think that's like fertile ground to be, planting seeds, with young minds and teaching them and educating them about blockchain. And that's our personal passion here at Block Boys, and certainly in everything that I do, because we want people to learn about blockchain. Crypto is the sexy thing right now, and so for people who've never heard of blockchain, we can sort of lure them in with crypto discussions. But ultimately, our goal is to lead people to, the stream of blockchain, so they can drink from that water source and get that knowledge, because that's where the power is. But anyway, man, we appreciate y'all rocking with us. It's been fun It's fun getting back on the Block Boys wagon, and we'll keep pumping out these new episodes when we have interesting things to talk about. But until next time, holla.